And we are still on this morning on ITV, independent television broadcasting live from Pape Hill here in Abuja. And we are on that segment of the program, Nationalism and You. I remain your host, Ebenezer Oyetaki. The second segment of the discourse is centered around industrial actions. Incessant industrial actions and the impacts. Impact of incessant industrial action on the nation. With me to take a look at this morning is Comrade Haruna Braimo Gani. He is the Director of Media and Publicity, Advocacy for Good Governance Network, West Africa. You are welcome to our studio.
It's my pleasure.
And in the characteristic of this program, we say nationalism and you.
It's my responsibility to build and drive for the sustainable development of a greater Nigeria.
Very good. Very good. And I will do the same. And I hope you watching us out there, you will do the same. Very well. Incessant industrial actions.
Yeah.
What are the impacts? I want you to educate us on that.
Beyond that, we have to give you some brief historical perspective.
Take us on the road.
Yeah. Especially as it affects our education. Education in this sense, maybe we have to first of all narrow it to ASU. Because we have the ASUP, Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics.
Okay.
We have the Colleges of Education, their own Academic Staff Union, and all put together have had a lot of grave effects on our education. But let's take the aspect of ASU as far as this program is concerned. Ordinarily, the ASU came to bear in 1978. Before that, we had the Nigeria Association of University Teachers, which was formed in 1965 and driven under the umbrella of with the Trade Union Acts of the 1963 Republican Constitution of Nigeria. Their core purpose after 1978, after the old one was defunct and ASU came to bear in 1978, their core mandate was not just limited to driving for the welfare of their members. It was all geared, the purpose was for them as like any other trade union to help to influence the betterments of education, influencing government to drive for infrastructural development, sound curriculum, evaluation, and development, to drive proper funding for research and others. But over time, it has been narrowed to the welfare of lecturers, teachers alone. And this has really had a lot of ripple effects negatively in the entire education. And by extension, leading to capital flights affecting our economy. I'm going to go to that in the course of the discussion. If from 1999 to date, we've had more than 20 ASU strikes in Nigeria. Accumulatively, the period of this strike have consumed about between 5 to 7 years from the academic lives of the Nigeria university education between 1999 to date. That means we have lost about 5 to 7 years academically. So you can imagine the quality of students that this has affected, the quality of graduates that have been churned out. Today we are no longer talking of unemployment, we are talking of unemployabilities. We are bringing and we are churning out graduates for university that are no longer employable because they are no longer well molded around the course of study, because the effect of ASU strike affects both from the part of the government for planning, proper planning. When ASU is on strike, government is not planning. The plan is somehow limited. It's not active enough. From the aspect of the universities, everything is on standstill, and even the lecturer, whenever they resume, it's all about rush to complete courses. Everything is being rushed to meet up with their curriculum, the school calendar, and what have you. And at the end of the day, you end up packaging and a product from the university that is not well done, half-baked graduates, and you give to the society. And the economic effect of such reflect on the poor productive nature of such students or of such graduates to the larger society, and by extension, an unproductive student or personnel in any organization where he or she finds himself, at times they are not even unproductive to themselves. If they are unemployed, they cannot add value to themselves. A well-baked student, a well-baked graduate should be able, if not gainfully employed in any establishment, should be able to think outside the box, look inward inside himself to provoke his what I call emotional intelligence, to drive his creative mind, innovative mind to be relevant to, okay, what can I do for myself? Because most of them, we are seeing them today, and at the end of the day, they cross into all sorts of social vices. Some become criminals, even within the period of some strikes last a year, some last 2 years, some last 7 months. Within the period of 7 months, they are not reading, no self-development. Some of them get recruited. They become available tools in the hands of criminals. Some become yahoo. They channel their energy, and whenever the resumption happens, some of them don't even come back. They become, it's a threat. It's a huge threat on the economy.
But why do you think that these strikes or industrial actions are taking a nature of being perennial and incessant? Yeah. Why do you think that because they always reoccur?
The nexus between the government and the ASUU is not there. There's no connection. There is broken down of trust. Agreements are not being kept. The demands of ASUU have become so unbearable to even the government. And if you look deep into it, for example, let me take you on one of their demands of ASUU. I'm not here to speak for government. Government has its own to blame because they failed in most of the time. Agreements are not being kept. Agreements are not being. Why are they not keeping the agreements? There are reasons why the government will also fail. And what are the demands of this ASUU? For example, end allowance. You've seen it on television so many times. They say they are agitating for end allowance. What is end allowance?
I want to ask you.
All right. End allowance, simply put, is that allowance that a lecturer fee he deserves by providing lecture or teaching above the capacity of students that is supposed to teach in a particular session, in a particular class.
Okay.
So if in a class a lecturer is supposed to teach, let's say 70 students or 50 students, for example, and in that class he sees himself always having to teach 100. At times some classes have 150.
Is he wrong to demand for such?
Fine. The demands of us, remember I tell you, one of their core objectives was supposed to drive for the infrastructural development of the university. If you are demanding for end allowance today, which is the sad consequence of us not having many classrooms, which is infrastructure, that is your core responsibility.
And probably not having enough
teachers. These are things government ought to be supposed to be telling the government to employ more teachers. How can you be demanding for end allowance for more than 50 years, for more than 30 years? In one particular thing, all year round, every time you are demanding for end allowance. You don't want the solution. That means you are benefiting from the crisis indirectly.
Okay.
You understand? So when you are now asking for the end allowance, it becomes an issue between you and the government. The government feels, okay, in this school, every year, through TED Fund, Tertiary Education Trust Fund, through different means, the UNESCO coupon, UNESCO Coupon, they provide, they give them money for facility development across different universities and other, even some capital projects that are being executed by the universities authority through their capital releases from the federal government to these federal universities and even state universities, and the structures are being improved upon in their own limited capacity from the government. And why do you think you should be getting this N allowance? Is it that these students are not being rationed along these facilities or these classrooms? That is where the quarrel always comes in. That is where the disagreement starts from. And if you notice the last one you're talking of you being engaged in University of Benin, for example, as a lecturer. But you are a visiting lecturer to almost 3 different schools, 3 different universities across. And you are being captured not on allowances. You are being captured in these schools as if you are a fool. You are also a lecturer. Any salary in Uniben, in Unilag, UI, or possibly Unica at the same time. And the government is saying we have to harmonize through the presidential payroll system. Let's harmonize the salary, because when it's harmonized, your name will only show appear once as a lecturer, as an employee of government for University of Benin. But when it's not harmonized, you are on the payroll of University of Benin, you are in the payroll of Unilag, you are in the payroll of this. But you are just going there as a visiting. Why don't you make an arrangement as a visiting lecturer? This is your allowance.
Well, the lecturers will also tell you that the political class, the kind of remunerations they are receiving, vis-a-vis inflations and their own ability to care for their family as what do you call it, as lecturers and the rest of it, is disproportionate, and so therefore they need to play the what do you call it, the survivor instinct. What's your take on this?
If we have to go with every aspect of the Nigeria labor remuneration class is disproportional, that means everybody should be going on strike. Yes. If one of the most important sector in any society is security. So if the security agencies now wake up to say, if they compare their salary structure to that of the political class, so we are no longer being who we ought to be. These things, as much as it's okay, sentimentally or emotionally, we cannot be playing emotional game. It's not justifiable. There are other means of influencing government decisions. ASUU is part of the larger Nigerian Labour Congress.
I was going to come there.
You understand? And the Nigerian Labour Congress is the umbrella body of all labor unions in Nigeria.
Exactly.
If with
we
other
even have the
CSOs,
we even have the Trade Union
Congress, the TUC, yes. You know, if with the collaboration and support of the CSO, civil society group, that represent the larger interests of those who are in the private sector, those who are the non-aligned people, and are not aligned along with any trade union, we all come together to make a huge movement, a resounding presence, position known to government, that the remuneration of the political class need to be revisited, to be trimmed down, so that governance really, as what it ought to be, becomes service-oriented, not for selfish aggrandizement.
Now let us take it. Let us look at it like this: the government in one arm, the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress in another arm, to which ASUU and all of this belongs to. Understanding the destructive impact of incessant industrial actions, both on the part of our educational system and on the part of services to the nation and things of that nature. Are these things not avoidable?
Yes, definitely.
If they are avoidable, what should the government be doing? What should the Labour Congress be doing?
Exactly. If everybody see things from responsibility angle. It is if the government begin to wake up to reality that it is their responsibility as government to do what ought to be done, in as much as you're talking of limited resources, let the people build that trust with the people. The issue, I think, comes down to the issue of social contract. Let people see that actually, with what you are doing, you cannot be telling me you don't have money to do XYZ, and I'm seeing on television every day that they are discovering billions in the well. Somebody is stealing 13 billion. Somebody is doing this. The country has money. Actually, you will just feel like they are just neglecting your own side of it. So government need to live up to expectation in the provision, like a deliberate, passionate provision of necessary infrastructure for the university education, for the tertiary education, even for the entire education sector. And those who are responsible to drive these policies should be people of almost impeccable character. Because you can award contracts. If you will be shocked that if the ICPC is moved now or is ordered by the federal government to go investigate ongoing projects, federal government paid, fully paid projects from 1999 to date across all the federal government sponsored education system, from primary education, the aspect of UBEC, you know, secondary education, because we are still going to cover the education is on the concurrent list. The governors have a role to play in all this. I mean, I talk of the tertiary, the polytechnic. If it's investigated, you will be shocked. The deaths of deliverables. Meanwhile, you will be surprised that this project have been paid for. Who are these people? People that did not execute this project and have collected the money. They are not alien. They are among me and you. They live with us in this society. They wake up every day, still become critic of the political class. But nation building is a responsibility not limited to the political class. There are people who are the engine room of the political class, who are the machinery, the bureaucracy, who is supposed to be the machinery to drive the political class agenda. Are they working up to expectation? These are government, they are not political, they are not elected public officers, but these are government civil servants and appointed.
Some people have said, some experts have said that the labor force of a nation is very, very important to the government of the nation. So the government is the owner of the labor force. And the government also belongs to the labor force,
yes,
and things of that nature.
Yes.
Some people, some experts have opined that why is it that there seems to be a confrontational approach between government and labor force as represented by the Nigeria Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, instead of cooperation for them to explore areas of, cooperation. That is, the government can look at the labor force and said, the labor force need to be motivated and therefore aggregate the inflation in the system, the wages of the labor, and take proactive measures to address them, probably cut down on the excesses of the government expeditionary spendings that are tailored towards concurrent budgeting and the rest of it, in order to provide a qualitative and well-motivated labor force and the rest of it. Some people who find that if we work in this cooperative manner, we will be able to avoid incessant labor-government conflagration. Do you share this view?
Definitely. I share.
How do we go about it?
But it can only be done, like, first of all, in the words of Rabataz, one of the great Ekist philosophers. He said, a dependent person that is supposed to be dependent, but find itself to be dependent, is raccord detail, which means it's a contradiction in terms.
I like that.
You understand? That is such is the situation of the Nigerian Labour Congress or the Labour Union. Whether it's TUC, the labor we are having.
The labor force.
Yes. They ought to be independent in one hand and inversely related with the activity of government in the other hand. They are not directly related, but inversely. Because just like you said, their efficacy and efficiency becomes the productivity of government. They're supposed to work hand in hand, indirectly. How do you work hand in hand indirectly? Indirectly in the sense that you need to always check the other one to drive your productivity, give you what you need. Because it said a non-motivated labor force is a risk to the productivity of a nation. Mm-hmm. But those who are supposed to drive the motivations have compromised in the process in trying to seek for the essence of their motivation. They've compromised in different ways. A situation whereby government agencies parley with labor executive, organizing seminars abroad. This person, when a labor union that knows its onions will not be writing to government agencies to sponsor a supposed ILO convention or ILO organized seminar abroad. When the government agency is now sponsoring activities of the Nigerian Labour Congress, directly or indirectly, how do you come tomorrow to stand before the same government agency or before the same government or try to fight for workers in that particular agency that must have sponsored a seminar for you in abroad? You now talk of let's take for example Minister of Health, Federal Minister of Health. The doctors are on strike. You just leave them to their immediate union there, which is an NMA, Nigerian Medical Association. You see the umbrella body, Nigerian Labour Congress, they always stay aloof.
Nigeria Resident Doctor Association.
Exactly. They always stay aloof. Because it takes integrity for you to come in as the umbrella body, to stand for these people. Today, the government have also succeeded in breaking into their ranks, creating slack variables amongst them.
Many people also opine that instead of waiting for government to take one step and the labor now pour out and say, we no go agree, we no go agree, and that kind of a thing, creating this, that labor ought to be taking a strategic and proactive move to watch activities of political office holder, in the sense like, for example, what people say, I am just recapping what people say. For example, this is 22 years of our democracy.
Yes.
Refineries, the 4 refineries we ran aground were built under the military.
Yes.
Democracy that's supposed to be the government of the people, by the people, and for the people has not been able to give us another refineries, not been able to turn around the one that are there.
Yes.
People are saying, if the labor had worth their onions, they would have gone on vehement protest that we ensure that the government either build new refinery or repair and turn around in reality the existing one. But we have not seen that. Instead, they will be waiting for, say,
let me shock you a little.
Go from there.
All they do is grandstanding. There's practically, I can make references and I challenge anybody, I'm live on air, to come with contrary facts to what I'm going to tell you now. You know, I'm here as a representative of civil society, an NGO. I'm not in the part of government or labor. I've just
an international NGO for that matter, yes.
For that matter, it's all about good governance. There is hardly any related policy of government that will have effects on the general populace in Nigeria that the laborers are not part of.
Okay.
If you calculate members of the PP, if you look at the board, representative in the board of the PPPROC, PRA, the Petroleum Pricing Regulatory, labor is there.
You have labor there as a member,
of course.
okay?
Before the set-up committee for palliative, for the palliative
for COVID-19.
No, not just COVID-19. I'm talking of Goodluck Jonathan era.
Okay.
The palliative for the increment in 2012 for that opera that happened.
Okay.
The government revealed. Were you people not part of even the palliative that came after the crisis, the Lagos lockdown that happened with the increment January 1st, 2012, the increment in fuel price that shut down the whole Nigeria. government included labor in the palliative. They call it there's a program they design that the fuel subsidy removal, and part of it will be used to do this, to do that. The laborers were part of it. If you go to some CBN intervention policies, you see labor as part of those part of the people in those committees. We have NUPENG inside the oil petroleum sector. Have NUPENG gone on strike for once because the refineries are not working?
That is what Nigerians are asking.
But they will go on strike for their own selfish interest. If a member of NUPENG or whatever Apple, they'll tell you they are speaking for their members. That is why I told you, the same way with ASU. They've left their core mandates of influencing government decision, of becoming checks on government, as provided in the Trade Union Act, an act that has been sustained over the years and remodeled. They've all shift attention to the selfish interest of their members, even when those interests is no longer in tandem with modern economy reality.
Because if you look at it,
so how do you not expect the government to take such people serious? How? When the government know that behind the scene, they collect, you can't be a member of this committee and this policy formulation. Just check the Buhari administration, the economic roadmap and whatever, different economic platforms that have been channeled, that have been designed by this administration. Labor, the one that is really critical, that has effect on the public, laborers have been part of it. They've made their own contribution. Is it the National Minimum Wage Review Committee?
Is it that they are limited, that people are limited in foresight? Because if you said minimum wage, 30 naira minimum wage, and the government approve it, say 30,000 naira minimum wage, then inflation came, that it is astronomical in nature to the extent that it erodes its purchasing power of the 30,000 and reduce it to 1,000 and the rest of it. If you agitated for the right purposes, for the infrastructures in the schools, for the refinery to work to optimal and build even 3 or 4 more, the economic basis will be expanded so to the extent that the government can afford 80,000, even 100,000 minimum wage and things of that nature. Are they not seeing it in this direction?
Because
both the people in government and the people
yes,
in
the people in government,
labor.
I will never hold vote for them because they sit down.
We have to balance it.
Yeah, we have to balance. They sit down. The people in government sit down because most of them, they have devious motives. Most of them, they sit down to think. They will think for you as the next prey. It's less for you not to fall into their trap.
They think for you as a next prey.
Yeah. So they know. They psychologically they sit down. Okay, when we make the presentation like this, this guy that is coming to check us, or this union, or this, is going to come like this, come like this. So if this guy that is coming has already been compromised, and he has eaten from the cake, we have given him a bit, his stand is automatically watered. His being part of the policy formulation process becomes useless. So it does not even have, let me take you to ASU again, talking of research and development.
Mm-hmm.
All part of the demands of ASU over the years, in the last 22 years, or part of them has been research and development. Even when these things are being met on a piecemeal basis, government, okay, you demand for 2 billion, government say we are going to give you 300 million or 500 million for research and development. Let government wake up now. Government knows. Professionally, I'm an external auditor. I happen to be an external auditor team to one of the federal universities in Nigeria. I knew what we discovered as far as R&D is concerned, research and development. Let government wake up tomorrow and say, let us audit the funds that is being released for research and development.
And government should be very particular and concerned about those things.
They don't
because that is where lies our future.
Course. Because what have they done as far as research is concerned in Nigeria? Today we are battling with all sorts of diseases. Which solution have emanated from any higher institution? as one of the outcome of
about 4 days ago, I heard that the President Muhammadu Buhari has approved that the money for research and development should be increased for the universities.
Exactly. Increase the money, the professors. A professor told me that, auditor, if he spoke pidgin, he said, auditor, if you find this money past your head, go roll. If you investigate this money past this level, head go roll.
Okay.
At that point, I have to begin to ask myself, this person is telling you it's between life and death. Just because I'm asking, probe it to the bottom. Because in my profession, if something arose your interest, you probe to the bottom. And you demand for research, increment in research and development increment. And when this money is released to these universities, there's no follow-up. Even when there's follow-up, who is going to do the follow-up? And when you begin to question them, they begin to, you see crisis, they can even threaten another strike that you want to invest. Just be in a uniform payroll system now.
Thank God that you are in the civil society. Some people have said that the foundation of labor union, both international labor organization and the one we have here, say Nigeria Labour Congress, TUC, their foundation is laid on falsehood. The falsehood is that if you look at labor, they have this slogan, Aluta Continua, Victoria Asata, and they always pretend to be tilted towards a socialist standing and things of that nature. But actually, in actuality, the labor union international was yes, because they were founded in Geneva, which is a capital of bourgeois and things of that nature. And that being that, they are founded upon the supposition of the bourgeois that we will take inimical actions against our citizens. Yes. The labor union that we created, they will do a measured offensive action. The labor will come and protest. Yes. We have a premeditated that kind of a thing.
Yes, and the rest they premeditated it and say, okay, let us, by the time they react like this, we'll shift like this a little.
As a nation, we are on a platform of nationalism and you. How can we act differently, both government and labor, to assume our reality in order to build a nation that what the collective dream and aspiration of our people?
Where all leaders across the strata, whether labor, government, private, from your where we all begin to know and do what is called sincerity of purpose. What we are having,
the way forward.
Yes. What we are having in Nigeria today is all the challenges across, whether you are heading a security outfit, you are visiting a university, leadership without sincerity of purpose. This is the only country where people sit down to conceive abandoned projects. They conceive it. A party leader once told somebody in Edo State that since you say the money no they reach to share, the next allocation will come bring it. By the time he brought it, he said, this one, you cut this money, this part is to settle party leaders. So this part that you go to use to settle party leaders, you will conceive project that you will abandon. So you won't put it in your budget that is for party leaders. You put it as projects. You actually go and lay the foundation laying of those projects with popping of champagne and everything. But deep in their mind is what you are going to use to settle party leaders.
ICPC discovered recently that over 257 such projects were lifted from 2020 into 2021 budget and the rest of it, and they will still be lifted. They will because the budget. What over 20 billion?
The budget we are operating, because like the vice president has always been agitated, so we should go back to cash budgeting. We cannot sustain this kind of budget, whereby every day, every year, after 12 months, we repeat the same thing. In the government circle, the whole of chairs in this place, all this equipment, they are being provided for in the budget annually. It is assumed that the useful life of these properties is 12 months.
The one that is more surprising is that of computer.
Of course.
150 computer this year, yes, 150 computer next year.
So until we change our style of budget, because we are operating a zero-based budget, which says zero base that whatever you budget for in January should be zero balance in December. So if the federal government say we are going to spend 13 trillion in January, the budget will start spending for 13 trillion to December. By December 31st, it is nominally by the name zero-based budget, expected that the balance in the account should be zero. So you now prepare for another.
What is the way forward?
So
how do we generate a system that is tailored essentially towards sustainable national development?
First of all, for the purpose of this program,
yes.
I'll start from the education aspect.
Okay.
The earlier ASU know now, because they are academic, they are not necessarily politicians. They become political ASUs. They become political unions. They are not supposed to be.
Are you not being too hard on them?
No,
because they have their own concerns too.
Of course, they have their own concerns. Because they are talking of nation building.
Because they will tell you that the government is not honoring promises.
Course, yes, a government will not honor promise that the person we are going into agreement with will know is a compromised person. Or the body that we can infiltrate their ranks and all those things. You come to Abuja to negotiate for agreement, and you are being lodged in the same government is lodging you guys in narco luxury and Transcorp heating, and you expect agreement to be kept. Let's tell ourselves the truth now.
So the way forward.
The way forward. First of all, the academicians. They are in the academic world. They are not politicians. They are meant to become the real drivers of innovation, of ideas, of creativity that any nation or the Nigerian people are waiting for to build on through research and development by building and producing creative minds. So if they must, the VCs of this university should begin to think outside. If the Ministry of Education or the political class are not thinking, they ought to begin to think, to be creating endowments. The endowment fund of Harvard today is more than $41 billion, which is more than Nigeria budget, annual budget. We are already having a budget of a deficit of even $5 trillion. Harvard's endowment fund.
Over 40 billion.
Over 40 billion. Oxford endowment fund is in the tune of $28 to $31 billion. Do you have any federal university or state university in Nigeria that have created an endowment program where the funding of their activities mainly will now come from? We have multinationals in Nigeria. We design tax laws in this country, I would say 2% educational tax. Instead of creating those educational tax to create another avenue of income, the revenue for government that will be eating, because the 2% spreading the 2% educational tax across the education sector will still create people that will eat the money. Why don't the government just design a policy, arrangement with everybody, every stakeholder in the education sector, be part of that policy direction for all multinationals across the six geopolitical zone to pick, to be part of one sound institution to create an endowment fund program, where annually these multinational big companies, transnational corporations, instead of the Dangote just using it as a CSRO program, corporate social responsibility, you should go beyond that.
Very well, very well.
Be a deliberate policy direction. Create endowment for these schools. You will be surprised if every company in Edo State, for example, is mandated by the federal government and Edo State government that every company should give.
Don't you think that
50 million or 10 million each to the University of Benin?
Will they not tell you that is why the tertiary education fund was created?
That's what I'm saying. I said, government, we have the third fund. Where is the source of the fund of the third fund? It's part of the 2% education tax that they charge on accessible profits of all companies in Nigeria. Are you aware of that?
Thank you very, very much. We can go on and on and on and on.
Sad. 160 billion naira is what Nigeria lose annually for students who cannot enjoy strike to go to school in Ghana. We give 160 billion naira to Ghana. By the last 2020 research shows that we are whooping capital flight of 1.5 trillion leaves Nigeria for outside education. Nigeria to go and seek education outside. In Cotonou, we are losing about 85 billion naira annually. So imagine the impact on the economy, and we are talking of the pressure again on the forex. And we are complaining why naira is 500 naira to $1 or 500 something naira. These are all putting pressure on the naira in an attempt to agitate for your labor.
That is passionate comrade Haruna Ibrahim Gani, the director of Media and Publicity Good Governance Advocacy Network, West Africa. It is my pleasure having you on our station this morning, and you have done justice to this topic.
Thank you.
This is where we will be rounding up the program for today because of time, because more things are coming our way. Yes, incessant industrial actions. Let those in labor unions and those in government work assiduously for the betterment and good of Nigeria nation. We can do it. Let us avoid conflagrations that can keep on retarding our development, more so that 2030, another set goals for sustainable developmental goal is here. Don't change the channel. On ITV, we always have programs that can entertain you, educate you, and keep you spellbound.